Hi, my name is Gregory Leon Thomas Scott. I was born in Sutley, Virginia, very small town, probably about the size of this hallway. My childhood was amazing. It was full of a lot of hard work. Mom and dad set great expectations for me and my brothers. Had a lot of chores, got used to doing a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do. So it made the time when I had to be involved in my sports, it made it all that much better to, make sure I put a lot of effort into that, and I loved it. So it was a great thing, man. But I knew very early on that sports was gonna be my ticket. Took a little piece of each of my brothers, man, and kind of try to fit it into my life, and just wanted to make my story super special, like all of their stories. What can I say about mom and dad? First and foremost, I love them both. They both sacrificed a great deal for all five of us. My dad, hard-nosed, 10th grade education, but a very successful man in his own right now, business owner for over 20 years. We just learned so much from him, man. My father was a hard worker, man. He was a very hard worker, but he was a master craft of all trades. He could weld, he could work on cars, he could drive trucks, he could cut wood, cut grass. It's just a lot of different crafts he gave us, and it was a lot of hard work involved. So growing up, didn't understand what my dad was trying to do to me and my brothers, having us outside all day, working the hell out of us. But looking back now as a grown man, I couldn't appreciate it more, because he taught us all how to work. And when it's time to work, that's what we all get up and do. We go to work.
My name is Gerald Scott, and I'm Greg Scott's father. Been in this house right here all my life. And I got married, and we raised all our children right here in this same house. And then after me and my wife separated, I still stay in the same house, so I've been here all my life, man, in this yard right here. Greg, he grew up here, and his other four brothers. Because boys are gonna be, they're gonna be boys, they're gonna be out there trying to experiment and stuff. Give you something to be proud of, because a lot of kids will want to always have and do good, but a lot of kids won't never make it to the NFL. A lot of them won't. I don't want to break their spirits, but if they do get there, make it well worth your time and handle your money wisely, because you can be rich today and broke tomorrow. So that's just the way life is. NFL, definitely not for long.
Mom is a preacher, was a nurse growing up, been a preacher for 35 years though, and that's really where I got a lot of my foundation, my faith in God from her. She was truly faithful in that, and she instilled that in us as well, the brothers. And was just a caring, nurturing mom, man, that we needed, that all five of us needed. And we just always had a smile on her face, and she pushed us as well.
My name is Yvonne Scott, the mother of Greg Scott. Well, Greg, after having 5 sons, and I waited 8 years before Greg was born, he's always been a very active. In school, he was always very active. But I think because he always showed love and respect, not just to me, to elders. His daddy was very strict on the way that the boys should act out in public and everything. So he always been good and kind and considerate, always willing to help somebody. I think that's a beautiful gift that he inherited from his daddy.
My mom, she was a preacher at Emmanuel Apostolic Holiness Church for years. They tore that down because that church was old. It was crazy because the church was like a 5-minute walk from my house. So it was mandatory that we went to church every Sunday up until we were about 14 or 15. She made us all go to church every Sunday until we were 14 or 15, and then she kind of laid off us a little bit. Like, you're a growing man now, you make the decision whether you want to go or not. So we all had that foundation growing up, but she still is preaching now. She is a member at El Bethel and Rose Assurance Church here locally in Southampton County, and so she's still doing great work.
We always told him, you don't go around picking at somebody and starting something, but if somebody start with you, you go for yourself. And I always started out for to win. And that's the way he was.
Growing up, I want to say around about 14, 15 years old, I got my first taste of the nightlife. My father had like a club out in our backyard, man, where you would be amazed at how many people would be at this club on a Saturday night, 150, 200 people in this big, solid concrete building. And I wanted to say that part of my life opened my eyes to, like I said, my first taste of the nightlife before I could even get out of Setley, Virginia. I got a chance to see people come and the camaraderie, just the atmosphere, the music, the things I learned listening to older people. I want to say those years definitely shaped a lot of Greg Scott, because you'll be surprised at the things you learn in an after-hour spot as a 14, 15-year-old kid. And sometimes having the DJ, the DJ wouldn't show up, so my father would be like, hey, son, you got to come out here and DJ tonight. So it was just a wonderful experience, man. I had no idea what I was learning as a kid back then, but looking back on the years, remembering some of the things that I learned and heard in that atmosphere was it was cool. It was really cool. It helped shape Greg later on for when he started to get into his nightlife as a college student and a grown man in the NFL. So that was definitely a very educational part of my childhood. After my parents divorcing, after 30 years of marriage, man, it was tough. It was a tough time for our family, all of my brothers, my mom, my dad, of course. We were so used to being such a close-knit family, so a lot of times as a kid, you don't understand what to expect after a divorce. You don't know how your parents are going to interact with one another. You don't know exactly what's going to go on. So it was a challenging time for all of us. Thankfully, my parents handled it like the grown-ups that they were, though. My mom, I just didn't want to leave here. I had a good, solid situation here in Southampton County with my high school, my coaches and everything, my teachers. And more than anything, I just wanted to stay here in that good, solid surrounding and that foundation. And so my parents had a tough decision to make. I think my mom ended up moving to Richmond for a year. Of course, my pop maintained this residency. But yeah, for a minute it hurt me. I didn't understand. As a 15-year-old kid, you don't understand why your parents are getting divorced, after all these years of being together. But I immediately had, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was God. But I immediately had a voice speak to me and be like, how selfish can you be? Do you want your parents to be happy, or do you want it to be all about you? And I grew up in an instance during that time because, of course, at the end of the day, the most important thing to me was my parents being happy. And if they had to separate in order to be happy, I thought that was better, because no one wants to see their parents fussing and arguing and stressing each other out. You just want calm times in your home. So them divorcing was the best thing for them to do in order for them to be happy. And I respected that as a young man. Again, I just didn't want my situation shifted. And it just goes to show my parents really showed me during those times that time heals all things, because you fast forward a couple years, and as my father, God continued to bless him with his entrepreneurship and his business continued to grow, my father buys a home and pays for it, cash money for my mom. And that also taught me another thing about leadership as a man, because when my mom divorced my father, she didn't ask for a whole lot, she just left. And my father respected that. So years later, as they mended their relationship and became friends again, he bought a house and paid for cash money. And to me, that's what a man is about. If people can be understanding of your situation through a divorce, you definitely want to look out for them when things do get better, and he did. And me and my brothers thought that was a hell of a move by a man to go back and buy your ex-wife a house after all those years, but he did. And that just taught us more about, manhood, leadership. Things don't always work out, but you can make the situation a little bit better as years go on. It made me focus a little bit more on some of the things that I needed to do, because that's what my parents told me to do. And that's another great life lesson they always told me, hey, let grown people handle the grown folks' business. You handle the situation you're in. You're a 15-year-old kid, be that. Me and your mom, and when talking to my dad, he was like, me and your mom, and when talking to my mom, like, me and your dad are gonna handle this. If anything, I turned that hurt into kinetic energy with my sports. I let the pain that I was feeling during my parents' divorce push me athletically. Every day when I got out there and I had to go through practice and I had to do some things I didn't want to do, I remembered my parents were going through some times that they didn't want to go through. So it pushed me even harder to achieve my goals. So the pain of the divorce fueled my athletics. I will say it made me a better player. It made me go harder. It made me realize nothing is forever. So take every day and try to make the best of the situation and go as hard as you can, because you never know what tomorrow may bring. Basketball and football were always kind of like a safe haven for me. And during that time when my parents were divorcing, because of course, divorces take a little time. Started mid-football season. I want to say it ended during basketball season, but I could always rely on my sports to kind of take me away. That was my safe place. Just kind of go there and be in tune with that at the time and not really think about the divorce. Because again, once me and my parents set me down and like I said, they were kind enough to sit you down. A lot of parents may not have taken that step, but they set me down as a 15-year-old kid and were like, hey, this isn't working anymore for us. And we need you to know that, hey, we're going to divorce, we're going to go our separate ways. And I just thought that was big, man. And at the end of the day, you want your parents to be happy. Of course, you want your parents to be together, but when that was no longer an option, you want them to be happy, separated. So it was big of them to sit me down and keep me in the loop of what was going on. So I always respected them for that. I had a troubled childhood, man. Was constantly getting kicked out of school, getting in trouble, getting expelled, because my parents didn't let me play football till I was like 11, 12 years old. And I want to say by that time you're in the 6th grade. And I was worrying the hell out of my parents about playing football all the way, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, and they just would not let me play for some strange reason. So I chose to act out in different ways, getting in trouble in school. I took a knife to school trying to cut my principal one time. I would cuss out bus drivers. I would tell teachers, try to tell them how to do their job. Took some ass whoopings for it, but that still was I was just out there wilding, man. Just out there wilding out, acting like I didn't have two hard-working parents that were giving me everything they had to provide me with certain opportunities. So, but the moral of the story is, once I started playing football, I never had another disciplinary problem in middle school or high school. Once I was able to get out there on that football field and be around coaches who are preaching discipline, working with your teammates, I had somewhere to channel all of that energy, man. So I will tell any parent that if you have a kid that is like literally dying to get out there and play a sport, please let that kid go out there and play that sport. You never know what's gonna happen and how it's gonna affect their life and what it can do for them on a day-to-day basis with their confidence, just their future. It was a wonderful thing for my parents to let me start playing, and look at what happened, get drafted to play in the NFL and play 4 or 5 years. So wonderful change of events for me, getting in trouble, staying in trouble, and then being able to find something that I could channel that energy and just coasting on out. Basketball was actually my first love. That's why I really got a chance, had a basketball hoop out at the house growing up, and would go out there for hours and just shoot by myself, work on different things. And I see that later helped me once I got to high school, because I had some basketball scholarships too at the end of the day. I could have went to Winthrop, University of Richmond, had a couple of different schools offer me basketball scholarships, but being 6'5", I played in the paint at high school. Being 6'5" in college, you have transferred to now point guard. So I was like, I think football is going to be the route for me, because being 6'5", 220 pounds coming out of high school, all I had to do was gain some weight. I was ready for football, but basketball was a totally different world. But basketball was the first love, though.
That's when he hit his 1,000 points when he was in high school. So I've always kept that ball and everything right there together, because these are memory things for me. I can look at them and think about them. And it's a good thing, because it gives you something to be proud of.
The first thing I remember about football was at home watching the game with my brothers one night, and it just struck me like the aggressiveness of the sport, how much fun it looked like. Also at that time had two older brothers that were playing high school football, Ryan and Jerry. This is something I want to be a part of. Sports is something that's going to be a huge percentage of my life, and I just love the camaraderie, the hard work, and all the lessons that were learned from it.
I've known Greg basically all my life. We've been closer for 27 years. So basically it's just a thing that Greg has been a left side of the pillar, and I've basically been the right side of the pillar basically for 20 plus years. And I've always been the individual who's going to support whatever his endeavors were. So leadership is always important. Just always be the guy that leads from the front. You've never been a follower, never start being a follower. It's just always the things that's transpired over the years, even going back to youth league football when he played with the Cortland Indians. It's just always been a thing where to say, this kid has a lot in qualities that has leadership written all over it.
I'm Littleton Parker III, and I'm the head football coach here at Southampton High School. Greg came through in 94, 95, in that era, I believe. I noticed him as an 8th grader. He had the winning attitude. He was a go-getter. He didn't mind working hard, obeyed his coaches, and he gave you 100% every play.
We had to sit out our first year. How we were able to sit out our first year at Hampton University was through this HOPE program that Donovan Rose had implemented at Hampton University.
Met Greg back in 97, 98, and he came in and he was a member of the HOPE program, but at the time he couldn't play that first year. But yeah, met him back then, and like I said, man, we've had a great rapport since then.
And the HOPE program was pretty much a program that allowed young athletes to come in, get their grades up, be prepared for their sophomore year in the classroom, but their freshman year on the field.
Well, HOPE stands for Hampton Opportunity Program for Enhancement, and it's for those males, black males, that academically not quite where they need to be. Hampton had a program that allowed them to come in and get the tutoring and as far as the studies, and make sure that they're on the right track if they have any issues and problems with any lifestyle or whatever, and put them on track, and then by there provide some financial assistance. And it was just another way for get those students that didn't quite have what it took academically, but with some support, it gave them a chance to blossom.
So if it wasn't for the HOPE program and Donovan Rose down at Hampton University, Xavier nor I would have had a chance to go to Hampton University because we were partial qualifiers, of course, coming out of high school, couldn't play immediately, and had to go there and get the grades up. So big shout out to Donovan Rose and Hampton University for taking a chance on us.
They came in and got a chance to get situated, and then they would put him right in with the rest of the student body, and he excelled from there, and the rest is history. Thing about him, man, he came here, and from the start you knew that he was going to be a player, and defensive end, you couldn't block him. And like I said, now we had a pretty good sized line back then for us to have the type of athletes that we had, and people didn't realize how we did it. But we went out there and we got him in the backwoods and different places. I know Greg came from a rural area type thing, and we didn't really know a lot about everything, but once we got him there and they came together, everybody together, we just had a natural bond and went on to win championships. And like I said, I think Greg went from there and played on the next level.
The Lord blessed me for 40 years to be a college football coach, and Greg Scott was one of my outstanding student athletes. We were at Hampton 16 years, and we were able to win about 13 championships. And Greg was one of the reasons all of that kind of took place. One of the local guys that had other options but decided to come to Hampton, and my goodness, was he a difference maker.
Joe Taylor has a master's in psychology. So imagine having a football coach that has a master's in psychology. His pitch is much different than anyone I've seen. He has a way of saying things and getting to you and motivating you, and I love him dearly for that.
We had a thing called Control the Dash, D-A-S-H. D is discipline, A is attitude, S is sacrifice. But the last letter, H, it deals with habits. Man does not decide his future. Man decides his habits, and his habits decides his future. And the young men that I've been able to coach, including Greg, we had a lot of success, but we were able to control our dash.
I've known Greg probably since about 1998, so that's about 20 years since I've known Greg. We first met when he got to Hampton, and then from there on, we just hit it. It was a great experience. We had the opportunity to see each other. He played for the Redskins, I played for the Cowboys. So that was a great experience in itself. Seeing somebody who you went to college with, seeing somebody grind and make it. And we talked about it in college, and it happened. And the experience for me, myself, was priceless. Being a young kid growing up, that's all you dream of is playing in National Football League. And for it to happen, it was nothing but a blessing, you know, that I was able to play.
I got a chance to see him JV ball, I got a chance to see him high school, and I got a chance to see him in college. We often use Greg as an example, and in fact, Greg is a part of my coaching staff, and he's able to, you know, talk to the kids, and they do a wonderful job of motivating kids.
I left college December 2001. After my senior year, went down to Atlanta. Chip Smith with Chip Smith Performance Sports.
My name is Chip Smith. I'm founder of Chip Smith Performance Systems, one of the largest trainer of NFL talent in the country. This is our 30th year of developing talent for the National Football League. We've actually put over 1,800 guys in the NFL. So we do their all-season training. We do combine prep. We're the largest combine prep preparer in the country. We average probably 60 guys a year putting in the league. So I was one of the very first guys that started the combine prep business and have watched it grow from a cottage industry to an industry. So I knew about Greg before he ever got to me. I'd done my research, and of course, when he showed up, being a Virginia boy myself, I didn't cut him any slack. I told him, listen, I'm gonna set the bar high. We're gonna achieve high. I'm not gonna let you get away with being mediocre. And so Greg got here in December, and it was just he and I. And so I got to know him. I got to know the man that he was. The character that he displayed was phenomenal. And so fell in love with him as a person. And I told him, you know what, we worry about the things we can control, Greg, which is your work ethic, your preparation, your attitude. I said, who drafts you, what round? We're gonna leave that up to the good Lord. He's gonna put you where you're supposed to be. We believe that, takes the pressure off, but you gotta put the work in.
It was a great day, man. I'll never forget it. April 22nd, 2002. I was watching the draft with my family here locally.
Of course, everybody thinks that they're going to get drafted in the first round, but it just doesn't happen that way.
Coming out of the combine, I went to the 2002 NFL Combine with all of the big wigs at that time, Julius Peppers, Dwight Freeney, all the big name guys, and I was down there with them. So I was a little starstruck because this little kid from Hampton is now amongst some of the big guys that played at University of North Carolina. So being able to watch the draft with my family, that was an amazing feeling. And then, like I said, got a little frustrated because I was told by general managers, some assistants, that I would be drafted in the 4th, 5th round. So as the 4th round passed, the 5th round passed, the 6th round passed, so I'm really starting to get a little disappointed now, like not feeling worthy.
I sat right there and watched TV and kept waiting on his name. Looked like they called everybody's name but his name. That's some nerve-wracking stuff for a family to sit there and watch.
The 7th round is going, and then I look at my phone. I get a phone call from this foreign area code. Didn't know what 703 was at the time, not traveling much, in college besides football games and stuff. So the phone rang, and it was Marvin Lewis. He was the defensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins at the time. And he said, Greg Scott, are you ready to be a Washington Redskin? And I was like, hell yes, I am ready to be a Washington Redskin. I waited for this day my whole life.
Well, we drafted Greg in Washington in 2002. I was defense coordinator there with the Washington Redskins in 2002. So that was my first opportunity to, actually I think I went to the pro day there at Hampton when he was coming out, and then we ended up drafting him in the draft that year, and then later on brought him here to Cincinnati.
Going into the locker room for the first time, being able to walk in the locker room and see Bruce Smith on one side, Jeremiah Trotter on another side, Jesse Armstead in his locker talking to guys, Champ Bailey over here walking around, Stephen Davis in the locker room joking. I was starstruck. I had a chance to be around a lot of the guys I had watched growing up on TV, and having a chance to be around them and learn from them was a wonderful experience, man. All of the defensive linemen, I had a chance to Big Daddy Dan Wilkerson, just numerous guys. I could go on and on, but that first year was definitely an adjustment to just letting myself, make myself aware that, hey, you're here now. You're one of the guys, you're not so, don't be so starstruck anymore. You've kind of made it here now too. Training camp is not fun, guys. It's not fun at all. Nobody really wants to go to training camp. It's constant practice, but you gotta love practice, you know? Kind of remind me of Allen Iverson a little bit. We're talking about practice, but it's a very important part of what we're doing. But training camp in the NFL, they pull you away from your family. You have limited contact. You're practicing twice a day. You have meetings when you're not practicing, and then when you're not practicing, you're trying to recoup the body. You're eating, putting good things in the body. A lot of guys are getting in ice tubs, getting the extra workouts, watching film. It's a very business-like mentality, and my training camp days with Washington were very memorable. We had training camp up in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and it was, being a rookie, man, it was so tough. I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, you're out there with all these amazing guys that you've been watching growing up, and then to be out there and to be in practice, and it be 104 degrees, and everyone is competing at a level that you've never seen before, because it's not football now, it's livelihood. You're competing with these other men for jobs, you know. They start out with about 90, 95 guys in camp. By the time you get down to the regular season, you're on a 53-man roster, and then maybe another 6 to 8 players on the practice squad. So it trims down a lot. So for every young man that has been through a training camp and knows what that is like and is able to talk about it, I commend you, because being able to go through 4 of them, it is one of the most tense times that I've had in my career, because those are very important 2 to 3 weeks that can pretty much determine how the rest of your life is going to go, or at least how that year is going to go. After I get back from the combine, I get back home, get around a few friends, want to celebrate a little bit, and smoked a little marijuana for a couple days, man, and then had to go up to the Redskins rookie minicamp probably about a couple weeks later. Didn't realize that I was gonna get drug tested again once I got to the rookie minicamp. So when they call out, say, guys, your urine samples are gonna be collected today, I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is not gonna be good, because I know I smoked about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm a nervous wreck, man, through that whole process. So I end up doing a urine sample, and just as I figured, a couple weeks later, I get this letter in the mail from the NFL substance abuse program. I have now entered into the NFL substance abuse program because they found traces of marijuana in my urine sample that I took at the Redskins minicamp. That was a little depressing at the beginning as well. Didn't want to let any of my coaches down, any of those people who had taken those chances on me, you know, any of that. But found out they had a substance abuse program, and it's not like you're going to get kicked out. People, like guys who have substance abuse problems, and when it hits ESPN and the newspapers, you have repeatedly failed drug tests. Once I got caught, I never failed another one, because I didn't want to be that guy in the paper for that. I couldn't let my parents, you know that I had made it this far and was gonna, mess it up behind smoking a little bit of weed. So kept it a secret as long as I could, but stayed in the substance abuse program the entire time I was in the NFL. Had to do pop-up urine samples. Guys would come anywhere, wherever you are in the country, they would come and take your urine sample, even if you went on vacation with your family. So, and they also gave you a psychiatrist, trying to, now, I'm a realistic person. Me, I don't think smoking marijuana is an addictive problem, something that's gonna stop you or stop your progress in what you're doing in life. I've seen other drugs do that. So having to talk to this counselor about me having a drug problem was very, very, or me having to talk to this psychiatrist about having a drug problem was very hard for me, because I didn't feel like I had one. I had worked my ass off, had gotten to the NFL, had smoked weed before I got to the NFL. I didn't feel like it hindered me any whatsoever. But growing up, realizing that this is something that you're gonna have to go through, this is a process, this is a position you've put yourself in. Let's not point the finger at anyone else but that man in the mirror. And I got that from a lot of my coaches, Coach Taylor, Coach Parker, my high school coach. Always go look at that man in the mirror. Sometimes that's where the problem lies, a lot of times. So went and took that look in the mirror and just realized that, hey, you put yourself in this position, you're gonna deal with this psychiatrist forever, how long you have to deal with it. You're gonna have to go talk to her, had to go physically visit with her once every 2 weeks, sit down and talk with her. So that was challenging for me because, like I said, I didn't feel like a drug addict at all. I didn't feel like a drug addict at all, but going through that process, it taught me a lot. It's different protocols and procedures, and you make your bed, you lay in it. But that was a trying experience for me, and trying to keep that away from my family, didn't want them to be worried about, was I out here tripping? Because you know how your parents and people are, when they hear something, they tend to overreact a little bit. And you like, it's not really what you think. So, but that was a trying experience for me too, man. But I've learned to work through that, got past that, didn't have any more problems during the time I was in the NFL. I stayed in compliance. Even though, I had a minor setback, smoking a little marijuana, getting caught, it wasn't a total stumbling block. I was able to learn from that situation, put that in the past, stay in compliance, never have another test where I gave a positive test for smoking marijuana. So I just want to make sure we always remember, man, don't let some of the minor setbacks, totally be a roadblock for your life. I was able to clean things up, put that behind me. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are a part of life. You're going to learn from them, and you're going to move on. So don't let any one mistake hold your entire life back, man. Move forward, keep progressing, and keep trying to do positive things in life. Carry out your mission. So I'm in the elevator with Coach Lewis one day, 2005, I never forget it. So Coach Lewis asks me, like, hey, Greg, what were you in the substance abuse program for? And I'm like, how do you know that, Coach? Like, of course, they have their way of finding out everything, and I told him that I was in the substance abuse program for smoking marijuana. And didn't make a real big deal of it. We talked about it. He was like, certain decisions require, certain consequences, so that's why you're dealing with that. So, and he never made a big deal of it. I don't think he ever looked at it and judged me. He never looked at me and said, this is gonna stop his football progression. He just talked to me about it as a mentor, as a friend, and we moved on. And like I said, and he said, Greg, I knew that, in Washington. So to know that you knew that about me for 4.5 years and never said anything about it and never let that judge your perception of Greg Scott, that meant the world. That meant the world to me.
You just never expect it to happen. You never can prepare for it when your time is up, because when you're young, you feel invincible. You feel like you're indestructible.
So I was in Washington pretty much trying to make it by myself, not with the coach who had drafted me to be there. So going into that second year, around the third week of the preseason, I got called into the office. Coach George Edwards was the defensive coordinator who had been promoted to that at that time since Marvin Lewis had left. And he pretty much just told me, he was like, Greg, you're a great guy, you're a great talent, but the Washington Redskins have decided to go another way. And that's a painful sentence, man, when you've worked all your life to get to a certain point and you've only been there for 1.5 years, and now people are telling you that your services are no longer needed. So it was a humbling experience, but felt like something I needed at that time. Phone rings again. 513 area code. Didn't know where the hell that was. Picked up the phone. Very familiar voice saying, Greg Scott, this is Coach Marvin Lewis with the Cincinnati Bengals, head coach. Wanted to know, are you ready to be a Cincinnati Bengal? And it was kind of like deja vu. Like, man, I'm going through this again with the same guy who drafted me. Now he's bringing me in over to Cincinnati once I've gotten cut from the Washington Redskins. So he was definitely, it was a dream come true, man, to get that phone call from him and be that familiar, warming voice that was bringing me out to Cincinnati. It was heartwarming because I was in the pits for a little while. I didn't know what was next, and then for that same guy to be the savior again, to come give you a second chance in the NFL with a different team, I was thankful. I left for Cincinnati that next day after I got that call from Marvin Lewis. My brothers and friends came and packed up my house. I had a lot of good people, man, around me that were willing to jump in and help. But yes, that move, and I'll never forget it. When I got to Cincinnati, it was snowing. It was a change, and I had to make the adjustment, but Yet and still, I was super thankful for another opportunity, to put on another NFL helmet and try to make another NFL team. I've been with them 2 years. I spent a little time on the practice squad. 1 year I was totally active, but had my mind set on really trying to make that squad this third year round. And going into that third year, man, just things didn't work out. Coach Lewis called me up and gave me that speech again. Hey, I love you. I'm behind you, but I'm not the only one that's on this staff, and we make group decisions. So, we've decided to go another direction. So, hearing that was a little tough. Had to go back to my apartment, pack up all my stuff, drive back home to Virginia. But it was another humbling day. But yet and still, I was thankful. Most guys dream of playing one day in the NFL, and up until that point, I had played, 4.5, 5 years. So after Cincinnati, man, it was just packed up, came back home, and tried to figure out what's next, and ended up playing arena football for 2 years. All the team doctors and everything would joke with me, but man, you don't have any injuries. Did you really play college football? And I was like, yeah, of course, but so we're in Grand Rapids, and I'm in the open field. I'm playing arena football for the Grand Rapids Rampage, and we are on kickoff return. So I am going back to block on kickoff return, and I plant, and I hear this, and I'm like, oh my God, I had never felt this before. Immediately grab my knee and I fall to the ground. My whole leg is numb, and not really in a lot of intense pain, but just shocking. Never had this go on in my leg before. Like I said, I never really had any serious injuries, man. So that was tough. People say you see things flash before your eyes, but I actually saw my whole playing career flash before my eyes when I was laying down on the floor holding my knee. Didn't know how I was going to be able to recover from that knee injury. Had never been through anything like that before. So they picked me up and they take me off the field and they take me back into the team room. The doctors are going through doing their examination and everything. And the doctor looks at me, he said, I hate to tell you this, but I think you've suffered one of the worst injuries you probably could have suffered. You torn your left ACL. So hearing the doctor say that, man, I couldn't really wrap my mind around it at the time. I had heard from previous teammates and old teammates, once you tear ACL, you're pretty much on the shelf for a year. You got to rehab that leg and go through the process. So it didn't really sink in at the time. I just had so much stuff running through my mind. I just never physically not been able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So that was a trying time for me. But went through the rehab, had the ACL surgery about 2 weeks after tearing it. Went through the rehab, actually came back here to Virginia to go through the rehab so I could be close to my family, my daughter, and my girlfriend at the time. And it was tough times, man. It was mentally trying to rebound from tearing that ACL. I think I had wrapped my mind around it was time to push forward and look for life after football. Because going through my rehab, that knee just never really felt like the right knee. It never felt like that knee before it got hurt. So I knew pretty much after I went through my rehab and got it back as strong as I possibly could, I was going to move on from, it was time to move on to life after football. And it also gave me a greater appreciation for people who were dealing with ailments that they weren't able to just rehab and get back. People who are dealing with wheelchairs, or it makes you look at a whole nother aspect of life, man. It just makes you grateful that, hey, this is something I'm going to be able to recover from. Just think, if you couldn't recover from this and you had to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, imagine how those people feel, the people that were walking at one point in time and now have to adjust their life to a whole different mindset of not being the person they once were. It's a tough time. But going through that process, like I said, again, taught me a lot about myself, and I'm just glad I was able to go through it, recover fully, and move on to my life and be the philanthropist that I was thinking about doing that time when I was going through that tough road, that depression stage. So I'm just glad it all worked out. Me tearing that ACL kind of put me at that crossroad where it was somewhat a blessing in my life because it catapulted me into my entrepreneurship. I had no idea it was going to do that at that point in time, but looking back at it, it was such a blessing because, of course, we all had the idea of going to play 10, 12 years in the NFL and just ride off into the sunset. My story didn't end that way. Went to go play arena, and tearing that ACL kind of forced me into a bigger part of my life, the philanthropy, the giving back, wanting to come home and help my community and surrounding communities. So it was a blessing nonetheless. I didn't see it at that time, but looking back at it now, it definitely pushed me into a part of my life where I'm glad I'm at now, the philanthropy and helping people and just being able to give back to my community. That's big to me. If anything I learned from the experience of tearing my ACL is, and any young kid that may tear ACL that's coming up, a young high school student or college kid, keep pushing. Go through the rehab, attack your rehab aggressively, because you can come back from them. Guys come back from them all the time. I was just on the downside of my career and was looking forward somewhat to life after football when I tore mine. But I will say, any young kid tearing an ACL, it's only an obstacle, a hurdle for you to jump over. Relish the process. It's going to be tough. It's going to challenge you mentally, but enjoy the process, because it's only going to make you a better player when you come back, because life is not always peachy cream. You got to deal with the rainy days just as you do the sunny days. So go through those rainy days with a smile on your face. Again, attack your rehab aggressively if this happens to you. But continue to push forward and know that you can recover and come back and possibly be even better than you were before you tore the ACL, because I've seen that happen in some cases with guys as well. They were, come back even a better athlete than they were before they tore the ACL. So it's two sides to it. Mine was just, hey, time to move on. Time to, prepare for life after football. So I think mine happened right at the right time. Came home after the arena football days. After tearing that ACL, I came back home, and I was pretty much a stay-at-home dad for a little while. Was taking care of my daughter while the girlfriend went to work, and I was in a dark place, man. A little depression. Money was running low. Had to get to the point where I filed bankruptcy. I had pretty much lost everything I had gained.
It really bothered him, and I really didn't know what to say or do. We just took one day at a time, because you couldn't tell him, everything's gonna be all right, because he was living that life with his buddies and everything. He had the money coming. I always told him, man, you need to save some of your money. Save some of your money. It's because you go to a pond today and there's plenty of water in it. Don't mean it's gonna be there forever, but save you some water. Put you a little bit away. And sure enough, he fell down. His car got lost. It took the car from him and all that. But when he had all that money, I couldn't tell him. I tried to tell him, man, you need to pay for that car. You need to do this.
Of course, when I came back home after Grand Rapids and tore my ACL, and along with being a stay-at-home dad, I had also went back to Hampton University to finish my communicative sciences and disorders degree.
My grandfather had a 6th grade education. My dad had a 10th grade education. So it was very important to me to get my education, because my family didn't have the opportunities that I had. And something that my grandfather told me before he died was go all the way. And he stressed education, so that was important to me.
During my time when I was at Hampton University, 2008-09, like I said, I'm fresh off of bankruptcy. I'm lucky enough to be on unemployment, getting some money from that. But got a call when I was up in Hampton. This phone number at Hampton University one day, man, and it was the repo man looking for my Yukon Denali I had at that time. I leave school that day, and I come home, had to pack up, stop coaching, everything. Leave school, come home that day, and I get my truck repoed. I drive out to this church not too far away from my mom's house, and truck gets repossessed, man, but that was a tough day, seeing my mom cry, but that truck was the last thing I had from my NFL days. I remember watching the truck go up on the road back as they were repoing it, and I remember looking in the car, seeing my mom, and she was crying.
It really got to me. I was sitting there crying, because I know some of the agony and pain that he was going through. So when your children hurt, you hurt along with them. And so I was talking to him, still, Gregory, it's not the end of the world.
So that touched me, that touched me a lot. It's like that was a tough day. So I had to just kind of refocus, but it was a good day, but it was a bad day because I also had to just deal with the repercussions of moving forward. I had pretty much lost everything. Now I'm seeing my mom cry, but it was also like a new beginning for me because I had gotten all of that NFL stuff out of my system, the possessions, the years, and it was just time to move on with life, man. And that was a major crossroad that day, getting the truck repo. One of the most important lessons I learned from football was, and it carried over to life, you get knocked down, but you gotta get back up. You don't win every battle. Sometimes the bear gets you. You want to get the bear more than he gets you, but sometimes you don't win every battle. And football also taught me about accepting responsibility for being wrong. Because when you go watch that tape, coach is gonna ask you one question: either you did the job or did you not. And that tape is not gonna lie. So I really wanna say that helped me a lot in my life, trying to do things as right as I possibly can, and that just kind of carried over to my everyday life. I sit back and I look at my life, man. My life has been this roller coaster. You come out, you do all these great things, full athletic scholarship, go to the pros, and then you need to be humbled. It needs to be snatched away from you. And thank God that I was always respectful, because wise man told me back in the day, Coach Parker, my high school coach, he said, "Greg, the same people you see on that ladder of success going up, those are the same people you see when you fall down the ladder of success." Seeing my parents go through the divorce and how turbulent and how tough of times that can be, that actually, I think, prepared me for my career in the NFL, the ups and downs that came with that, and also the ups and downs in entrepreneurship that I deal with today. If anything, I can say, man, my parents set great examples, because even during those tough times, they both never individually quit. They didn't quit on our family. They had to work together to make sure things were still going to happen for us, the children. So it was seeing that leadership out of them prepared me for the leadership, or prepared me for the role and the tough times doing football and doing entrepreneurship, which I think is just great, man, because they set a great example. As tough as the time that was, they went through it, and it's so much. I used to always hear my head coach in Cincinnati, Marvin Lewis, used to always tell us, "Don't flinch." I would say during that time, my parents went through that tough time and they didn't flinch. They kept their eyes on the prize and knew they were going to work the situation out and it was going to be good for us.
I try very hard to build men. And football is a tough game. And it's a great way to build men. Being on time, being disciplined, working hard, obeying your coaches, your parents, and your teachers. And that's the start of life. And it'll carry you a long ways in life if you do these things. Greg was not a joker. He was always serious about what he was doing. He always wanted to achieve, and never had to get on him about horse playing and things of that nature. When he came to practice, he was ready to work.
I was able to come back to my hometown and just do some of the special things, and people embraced me when I came home and wanted to make a difference, because they knew the respectful and humble young man I was as a teenager around here. So like I said, man, my life has been a dream. It really has. I couldn't have pictured it anymore, but to have the family, the support that I had through those journeys, the being drafted, the bankruptcies, and now coming back up the ladder, doing great things in my community, man, it's just been a wonderful ride, and I couldn't do it without my family and friends, and of course my wife and my daughter. This right here, guys, is a very prized possession of mine. Defensive linemen don't get a chance to score touchdowns often, and when I was with the Redskins, I scored an 80-yard touchdown playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I kept the game ball. And this was the last year. I want to say Paul Tagliabue was the commissioner of the Football League, so I kept this, and I want to say this helped me make the team. Scoring an 80-yard touchdown as a defensive lineman, I'm sure that'll help you make the team. So this is pretty cool, man. Some days when I'm not having the best day, I can look back over here at this football, and I usually have it hanging back up here behind me, and just realize that everyone hasn't scored a touchdown in the NFL, so it kind of picks me up every now and then. But this was a good day, man, the day I scored this touchdown.
Well, I think with anything, when a player is here in the National Football League, it's a job. It's just like life. It has its ups and downs every day. Nothing here is promised. You can be on the team one week and not here the next. And I think Greg's one of these people who, but you have to have people like that, the nuts and bolts of what you're doing. They're the strong foundation of your organization, and Greg fits that bill. And he knows he was blessed to have the opportunities he's had, and now he's just trying to give the young people back that opportunity.
There's still a lot of things to do after the game of football, and the game of football is not all you are. You are someone without the game of football. So it definitely taught me some lessons. It was a trying time for me, and I couldn't have done it without the support of, of course, my family, my friends, and everyone just trying to come back. But it was tough, man. It really was. Didn't really know how to wrap my mind around it because I didn't want the game of football to be taken away from me. But in an aspect, it kind of was, because when your body doesn't allow you to play the game at the level you're once accustomed to playing it, you got to do something else. And so again, it pushed me into other things, philanthropy and good things like that. So I'm blessed behind it. I didn't understand it at the moment, but looking back on it now, tearing that ACL was probably one of the toughest crossroads I went through, but the light got so much brighter on the other side. I was able to get a lot of therapy through coaching, though, after my playing career. Going back to Hampshire University to coach for those 2 years, helping some of those men achieve greatness. Kenrick Ellis, third-round draft pick. Chris Baker, had a chance to coach him as well. Helping those defensive linemen be small pieces of their puzzle of helping them get to the NFL. Coaching was very much therapy for me. Helped me get back closer to the game, helped me remember why I fell in love with the game, the lessons that the game can teach. And I felt like I needed those 6 to 7 years of coaching to also help me grow up and to give back, to be a part of my giving back as well, not just through Cover 3 Foundation, but my giving back to other young men who were 10 to 15 years younger than me, but had that same dream that I had of getting to the NFL, carrying out their dream, and doing great things. So being able to go back to Hampshire University and now be a member of my Southampton High School coaching staff with Littleton Parker has been very much therapy. Being able to pour my heart back, stories into those young men, giving them my perception of the do's and don'ts of some of the steps to take in the future has been healing for me, has been very healing for me. And I'm just thankful to be a part or to have been a part of the HU coaching staff and now the Southampton coaching staff. And I also spent 2 years up at Kings Ford High School, helping Coach Joe Jones and helping my old high school coach, who is the athletic director at Kings Ford High School, Randy Jesse. Those people have no idea what they were doing for me during those times, allowing me to be out there on those football fields, pouring my heart back into those young men. It kind of helped heal my heart a little bit from what football had done to me with the peaks and valleys of life. So it was a healing period, and I'm thankful to be able to be a sense of hope for young men, that they can look at me and be like, hey, I want to do something similar to what Mr. Scott did, or Coach Scott. I want to be able to go to the NFL and come home and take care of my family and make a difference in my community. And I actually had one of my young men at Southampton tell me that. He was like, if there's anybody I could be like, Coach Scott, I would want to be like you. You've been able to go to the NFL, play, do that, achieve that goal, and then come home and do something even more special, giving back to your community. Hearing that from a 17-year-old kid, man, it almost made me cry, because for him to be in a state where he could see it lets me know that he too has plans for his future, and he thinks about that a lot. So coaching was a very healing part of that process for me. I thank God for people letting me be a part of that coaching staff, because football, it hurt me for a little while. It hurt me. When the game was taken away from me, it hurt. And I had to learn to push on and deal with life without football for a little while. But to be able to be a part of it again, was all I needed. Anytime you're doing something special in life, man, you're chasing this amazing goal, trying to do something that people haven't done before you, you're gonna have pretty much three categories of people. You're gonna have your spectators, your motivators, and your haters. Spectators are just the people who cheer from afar. They really don't have a lot of direct input in what you're doing in your everyday life, but they like to cheer when they see the good things go on, and they like to gossip and let you be the topic of conversation when the not so good things are going on. So you're gonna have those, they're gonna be there anyway. You know, you have your spectators. Then you're gonna have your motivators, the group I like the most, the people who are always there no matter what, to give encouragement, to cheer you on in your times of greatness. You know, people who are gonna constantly push you to smash expectations of what people think about you. My favorite group, you know, your motivators. And then my least favorite group, your haters. The ones that are gonna just hate no matter what good you do. They never see the full potential in what you're trying to achieve. They're just gonna throw stones, and that's what they do. And I wanna say I am thankful that I was able to distinguish between the three different categories, but I do wanna say I'm thankful for you all, because you all pushed me to this place where I'm at in my life now, still trying to achieve greatness, still motivated, still trying to help thousands of people every day. So you all played a very important role in my upbringing, what's happened during my tenure with football, and what I'm doing now with my community service and giving back to my community. So again, I thank you all. It's funny how one door can close and it pushes you to your destiny, you know, what you're really supposed to be doing. So I'm at Hampton University, and of course I'm trying to finish my communicative sciences and disorders degree. But while I was at school, I was listening to a mentor who, when I was at Hampton University playing football, Gary Singleton was a Hampton University police officer. When I came back in 2008 to finish my degree, he was a restricted earning coach on Hampton University's football staff. Gary's telling me about his awesome organization called Peace in the Streets that's feeding a lot of kids in Newport News and different parts of Newport News. And he was telling me about it, and I was like, man, that sounds really, you know, awesome, man. That sounds great. You're making a difference in kids' lives every day, giving them a meal every day. And he was like, Greg, you should do it out your way, man. He says, no one out your way doing it. He said, the reason how I know is because I used to send food out there to your area. So I'm listening to him, but at that time, you know, my mind was made up. I was gonna be a college football coach. That's what I wanted to be. So sometimes when Gary is talking to me about this amazing food program, this government-funded food program, it's coming in one ear and it's going out the other. But as he keeps beating into my head, you know, I kept listening to him, started to do some research about what he was telling me, came home to see that it wasn't a sponsor here in this area. And of course, having them pretty much tell me I wasn't gonna be able to graduate from college in the time I had anticipated, it kind of pushed me to my entrepreneurship a little bit sooner than I want to, and thank God Cover 3 was birthed. Of course, Cover 3 is a football defense. I had a lot of great things happen to me in the NFL playing Cover 3, scoring touchdowns, getting sacks, interceptions, things that don't usually happen to defensive linemen. And I took notice that every time one of those great things would happen to me, we would be in the Cover 3 defense. So I loved the Cover 3 defense, but I also felt like there were three very important things in my life that kind of steered me to the path I'm on there. And that's having a great attitude every day, no matter what happens. If you wake up, it's a blessed day. Let your attitude reflect that. Having a great work ethic, and just having a great commitment. And those three things kind of washed in together, those three principles that I wanted to kind of pour into my kids and ask them to work on every day during my motivational speeches. I felt like if they work on those three things every day, you put yourself in a position to be successful no matter what your goal or ambitions are. Heartwarming journey for me to start out very small in 3 schools, and not just a heartwarming journey for me, a heartwarming journey for me and my staff. To start out with just 3 schools back in 2010, storing food, non-perishable goods, working out of an apartment and storing non-perishable goods in my father's motorcycle trailer out at his house, and then to see it grow to a point where I needed my own office, where we had to get an office downtown Franklin, 400 West Avenue, Franklin, VA downtown. And to have that building, when I first walked into that building and knew that Cover 3 was growing and I needed my own building, it was a wonderful feeling.
Started out in small, packing few, but then if it got so big, that's when he realized that he had to have a building, as time go on. And he was taught about you start out small, but then it grows.
It was a feeling of just joy to know that all the hard work that we were putting in is starting to show. People are starting to see some of the growth. And in a very short 2-year period, to grow out of that building and to be able to come uptown to this 9,000 square foot building and have 4 walk-ins in the back where we're storing all of this food, to have 3 refrigerated vans that help carry the food, to have another cargo van that help carry food, to have a staff of 8 people every day. I am truly thankful to see the growth go from such a small, minute idea to such this large organization, this massive organization that's making a difference in not only this community, but surrounding communities every day, feeding 4,000 kids a day.
Because I always had a passion for business, because at the time he was coaching, I was already into business. So with a media company and a management company. So when he, approached me about the idea that he had to form Cover 3 Foundation and what Cover 3 Foundation entails, it was just a no-brainer for me. So like I said, that's another thing for me to show the leadership qualities that he has in everything that I've witnessed him having still to this day. And it's just so important.
That's one of the gifts he inherited from his father, because Gerald is always growing up giving and helping somebody. So he inherited, I think, from his father, willing to help other people, and don't see somebody going hungry or out in the cold and you're not doing anything to help.
Cover 3 was doing well when I came in. Greg had plans for growth, so he wanted to get some procedures in place, so he asked me to develop a procurement program and also set up his kitchen where just about anybody can work in it. Because we're working with pretty low-skilled people that we're getting from the facility as far as on Virginia Department of Corrections, what they're able to send us. We don't have a lot of people with culinary skills.
Fast forward now, 10 years later, we're here, fed 2.5 million healthy meals to Virginia kids since 2009, being able to employ staff members, just help this community and other surrounding communities. It's a dream come true. I couldn't imagine it any better.
I follow with great interest what he's doing with his foundation, and again, he's impacting thousands of lives, which, at the end of the day, is really what matters. Using that platform of having played in the National Football League is awesome for him to take that and be able to give back. A lot of guys say they really want to do that, but they really don't have the wherewithal or the means to do that. And the fact that he's done that just makes me, so proud of him.
One of our goals is to always make sure we're reaching at-risk kids that need the nourishment that we're providing. So where we're feeding 4,000 kids every day now, I would love to see that get to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, maybe 10,000 one day, which is going to be hard, but I feel like we've gotten to the 4,000 kids every day in 8 years. Look at what can happen another 8 years from now. So we're definitely looking to still grow. We are looking to continue to carry out our great mission of making sure kids are getting healthy, nutritious meals every day in their after-school programs, and just continue to, like I said, be that pillar of light to let kids know that, hey, Cover 3 is doing great things. Greg was able to go chase his dreams. Why can't I chase mine?
Well, you think of this big, burly football player, and you say, what a big, big heart. You see the physical presence of Greg, that big smile, but the overwhelming thing you take away when you meet him is just how much he cares and how much he's been through in his own personal life, his own personal struggles with finding, his mission in life. And I think that he's just, you want to bear hug him. He likes to bear hug, and that's what he does. He puts his arms around, literally and figuratively, around the lives of so many children that need him.
I went to a fundraising event he had with his partners and sponsors. So just an opportunity to really support Greg and his mission to feed young people. I mean, I don't think it can get any better than that he's developing this program to feed children, and as he states, sometimes it might be their only hot meal of the day, and they have the opportunity to do what he's doing is tremendous.
So when you have a leader in sports and in the community, someone like Greg that young people can look up to, but also adults and community members around the business community and others can see, he's raising awareness about an issue that often goes without a lot of awareness, and that is child hunger. The fact that 1 in 7 Virginia children are food insecure, that only 14% of the kids who are eligible for after-school meals in the state of Virginia are actually receiving those meals. Consider the fact that only 4% of the children eligible for after-school meals are actually receiving those meals, that when you have a public figure like Greg talking about it, raising awareness about it, it really elevates the challenge to a point where if people know that children are going hungry, it's a bipartisan issue no matter what your political stripe. People want to help. Greg did a PSA with me and a Fairfax County nutrition director, so actually taking his mission beyond Southeast Virginia and across the state, worked in a PSA that aired and was broadcast up here, raising awareness of the availability of summer meals, because both those families in need and those in our community who don't struggle with hunger need to be aware that this is a challenge, this is an issue for all of us, and that there is a solution, there is a way we can reach these young people.
There's an amazing group of people that I want to talk about, and they are the National CACFP Forum Board. I have been privileged to be on this board for going on 2 years now, and CACFP stands for the Child and Adult Care Feeding Program. And that is one of the programs that Cover 3 Foundation operates in. Being on that board opened my eyes to another side of the CACFP, the behind the scenes and how hard people are working, the government aspect. And I just want to say thank you to them, and also thank you to the Summer Feeding Service Program, which is the SFSP, which is the program that we serve kids during the summer with Cover 3 Foundation, which is also immensely important because kids really are lacking that nourishment during the summer. They're not going to school anymore, and during those times, that's when they're the most vulnerable because they're not getting that nutrition. So to be able to carry healthy, nutritious meals to their recreation centers, their churches, their different facilities that they're going to, or their different summer programs that they're attending during the summer, is a blessing to us. It just really makes us thankful to be a part of this movement, making sure we're fighting childhood hunger every day. And I can't thank my staff enough. I am truly the face of this thing, but I couldn't make it happen with the people that come here every day and do greatness. We've gotten a lot of support from Walmart. We've had 3 or 4 huge community days. Had huge community days up at Walmart. 1,100 people would come through. We're giving out back to school supplies, bounce houses, food is being cooked. Just wonderful days that we gave away tons of stuff, didn't ask people to pay for anything. And that was my intent. I wanted to come back home, make a difference in my community, give lasting impressions on people that, hey, Greg was one of the athletes that came back home to his community and wanted to make a difference, because not a lot of athletes go back to their hometown and try to make a difference. That's the type of stuff that makes my heart flutter, because those are days that we are making an immense impact on our community, because we are giving stuff away that's at a high demand. You always want to make sure that families that are going through tough times can have that day to relax a little bit. I'm truly thankful for the people that have been along on this ride, and we hope that Cover 3 can carry this thing on for another 20, 30 years, because what we do really matters, helping our community, giving back, and providing healthy, nutritious meals for kids in Virginia. That just lets you know, man, that anything's possible. So keep dreaming, kids. Know that you can do anything. This world is out here for us to conquer. So go conquer it.